When you play the Game of Thrones,
Subscribe and like.
you die. There is no middle ground.
Welcome back to the Grease Goblins YouTube channel. Today's video, we're going to talk about why you are wrong about Catelyn Tully or Catelyn Stark in A Song of Ice and Fire. And there is a lot of reasons that I am going to defend this character. Catelyn, in my opinion, is one of the weirdest characters that everybody just hates on. Like, more than characters like, for instance, Cersei or Tywin or any of these other characters that are super hateable. For some reason in the books, Catelyn is more hated than I feel like all of them. Like, we've gotten dedicated videos or series from like Order of the Green Hand, like just saying this character is terrible, they're awful, all that stuff. And we're going to talk about two different, phases of Catelyn, of which I want to talk about. One of those being her as a POV, like how good she is as an actual POV character, and then her actually as a character, like looking at her morals, looking at her as a character, and trying to understand why people hate her so much. So on the first part of it, I want to look at my own experiences with Catelyn. I did an entire Game of Thrones reread where I went, week by week doing every single chapter. Catelyn was my third favorite POV of that book. She is a character that in that book, I think she's at her weakest, right? In terms of there's not as much going on for her as much as there is in the next two books. But even in book one, she's involved in some of the best chapters of the book, like the King of the North chapter, like the Battle of the Whispering Wood, the assassination on Bran early on in the book. That's a really great chapter. She has a lot of great chapters, and she's all over the place. At one chapter she's in the Vale, another chapter she's in King's Landing, or in the North, or in the Riverlands. Like, she is all over the place, and that's something that makes her so great, even in the future books as well, in book 2 and book 3. Moving to book 2, I haven't gotten all the way through A Clash of Kings in my reread, but I guarantee you she'll probably be number 2 behind Tyrion. I think the only other person that likely will be ahead of Catelyn would be Arya, maybe. But as of right now, as I'm ranking the chapters so far, Catelyn's probably very easily going to be 2. May even challenge Tyrion for 1, but I very much doubt it. So going to A Storm of Swords, I think she's also a top 3 POV. I haven't gone as in-depth with Storm of Swords yet. I haven't done it as a retrospective series like A Feast for Crows or A Dance with Dragons. And I also haven't done a hardcore reread on it yet like the first 2 books. So A Storm of Swords for me, I think she's a top 3 POV for me, but we'll see as again my reread. But for each book, in my opinion, she gets better and better and better. And as a POV, I think the reason that some people may not like her is because she's such a real character. Like, she's a real person. She has strengths, she has flaws, and those things really are what George is telling with the character. But not only that, as a POV, she is always in some of the most interesting places in Westeros. Whether it's like I talked about in book 1, whether it's like in book 2 where she's at Renly and Stannis' meeting, one of the best chapters of the entire series. Whether it's her going back to Riverrun and seeing the battles happening there. Whether it's her then going to the twins in the best chapter for me of the entire series, The Red Wedding. Catelyn as a POV, regardless of your feelings on the character, has some of the best chapters of the entire series, and in my opinion, gets placed in some of the best situations that are so interesting. So right away as a POV, Catelyn, in my opinion, if you have her in your POV rankings out of your top 5, it blows my mind because she does not have a bad book. Her worst book, in my opinion, is A Game of Thrones, and she's the 3rd best for me. She does not have a bad book. So let's then move on, because I will say, in most people's like YouTubers that I've seen rank the POVs, she is always underranked every single time. So part of it, I think, is bias because we haven't seen her in the last 2 books, and she kind of disappears about halfway through A Storm of Swords. So in that regard, okay, she hasn't been in the series for 2 books and a half as a POV. She is still a character in Stoneheart, but she's not a POV. So that is already the POV issue. I think she's already undervalued, underranked, regardless of your feelings of her as a character. Now, as a character is where I think most people have their biggest issues with the character of Catelyn Stark. The first one of those is she has very human flaws. She treats Jon Snow pretty horribly. And I think a lot of people would be like this. Now, not everybody. There are great mothers out there who are loving to all children, but Catelyn is somebody that holds resentment over Jon because of Ned sleeping with another woman. That is something that very much Catelyn holds over Jon's head. And we know Jon is innocent and all of these things, but you can understand where Catelyn is coming from. Jon represents Ned not being faithful to her at the very beginning of their relationship. And Catelyn tries to push that off, saying it was just war. All the men were doing it, especially people like Robert. But it still is something that kind of haunts her, and it drives her actions to even getting Jon Snow to really be sent to the wall, with her and Lewin kind of scheming on that whole idea. Did a video on that a couple of weeks ago. I would check that out, about Benjen and some of his suspicious activities. Kind of connects to this idea. But Catelyn is somebody that on one hand is not like the perfect person. She's not a great person. She's a complex person. She's, in my opinion, someone trying to do the best that she can, but a lot of times slips up. She's somebody that's very emotional in terms of when she is emotional, she makes very bad decisions, like most people do. When you are emotional, usually you make bad decisions. And that's just human nature. That's something that I think most people will be able to see in themselves. Think about the worst decision you've made and think about why you made that decision. Was it because emotion was playing into it? And Catelyn is one of those characters, whether it's her taking Tyrion hostage because of the emotion she's feeling towards Bran and the situation happening there, whether it's her releasing Jaime because she feels like all of her children at this point are almost dead, right? 3 of her children she believes dead, and Arya, Bran, and Rickon. Sansa's a hostage, and Robb is actually injured at this point. He takes an injury. So she does something that is very emotionally based. She's very depressed, and she decides to release Jaime. A really bad decision, but you can understand why she does it. And going into A Storm of Swords and all the other stuff that she makes these bad decisions, like not telling Robb to keep Theon back and remembering what Ned told her, all that stuff, it's emotion that plays into these decisions that makes her so interesting as a character. And I think a lot of people get hung up in this because Ned Stark is a fan favorite character. Robb Stark is a fan favorite character. And Catelyn has a lot of responsibility of why they both died. She made decisions that really helped those 2 characters in their demise. So a lot of people hold that against her. So you have 2 real things that I think lead to a lot of Catelyn Stark's hate in the fandom. One of those being she has a lot of responsibility in some fan favorite characters dying. She also is somebody that treats Jon Snow, fan favorite character, really badly. And so you have that mixing with it. There's a lot of things here that are really complex. And so my real question to you is, this is what I want to ask to you guys. Why is there more hate in the fandom to Catelyn Tully, or Catelyn Stark, I keep going in between names, than a character like Cersei Lannister, a character like Tywin Lannister, a character like, I don't know, I think she's even comparable to Tyrion. Tyrion's a character that is not a good person, especially as the series goes on, right? Yeah, maybe in the beginning of the series, he's more of a better person. He tries to do right, and then he's wronged, and he kind of spirals out of control. But Tyrion and Catelyn are very similar in terms of they have really strong flaws in their characters and their person. And yet, Tyrion does not have nearly the blowback that Catelyn does. And so I look at it and I go, there's a tribute. I think that most of it comes from what I talked about earlier. And so I look at Catelyn Tully and I think it's crazy to me that Catelyn Stark, who is not my favorite character, she's not a character that I love as a person. She's not somebody that I could ever see myself maybe being the best of friends with or anything of that nature. But I still recognize that she's one of the best written characters in A Song of Ice and Fire in terms of being a true human character. She's somebody that has flaws that really impact her and the people around her, but she also has her strengths. She has her strengths of being, trying to be a loving mother to her children, being very logical when she's not the center of attention and she's not the person that's emotional. For instance, in the talks they're having leading up to the King of the North stuff, she is the one saying we should seek for peace, which is a very smart idea based on Ned is already dead. Doesn't really make sense to go to war for vengeance and all of these things that motivate the main story. And we see that with her, with Renly and Stannis as well. Catelyn can be very clever and smart. It's just when she's emotional, she loses that ability to think rationally. And so I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. If you're a big Catelyn hater, why do you hate Catelyn so much? Why does the fandom praise a character like Cersei, but then in the same breath they put down a character like Catelyn? I see consistently people that rank the POVs having Cersei above Catelyn, which makes no sense to me. Catelyn is a far better POV in terms of the stuff going on around her. I think her and Cersei are comparable in terms of entertainment value. Cersei just being completely unhinged and being entertaining to read. Catelyn being kind of a different side of that. She's entertaining to read from a personal conflict side of it, and also the things going on around her, right? Being our main look into Robb's campaign, the War of the Five Kings, she's a major POV in, all of that stuff. So why do we give all this praise to Cersei being one of the best POVs of the series when she's only been in one book in terms of a POV, and then barely another book in A Dance with Dragons, whereas Catelyn's been in the main three, the first three, and she's one of the best POVs of all three of those books? I don't know. What do you guys think, right? Like, I am somebody that's not like the biggest Catelyn Tully or Catelyn Stark lover. She's not one of my favorite characters. If I was going to rank the best characters, she'd easily be in my top 10, but she's not a character that I'm like Stannis Baratheon defender level or Rhaenyra Targaryen level of I would defend them. She's a character that I just think that is undervalued in A Song of Ice and Fire, and I thought I would try to bring some light to it because I see far too much hate for Catelyn Stark. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think this is going to be a very divisive video. I think some people are going to agree with me. I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me. Let me know your rationale down in the comments. Try to be respectful, of course, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.